Hey guys, Logan McNeely here. I wanted to talk to you guys today about a post I made on Instagram last week where it was movement, speed, and then strength, and asking people if they put the cart before the horse. You can't put a cart before the horse if you're expecting the horse to pull the cart, right? So in terms of CrossFit the sport, or movement, speed, and strength, I think a lot of athletes try to focus on strength or speed before movement, and we need to focus on movement, then speed, and then strength. So we want to move well, and then move fast, and then move fast and heavy. What I mean by that is that we have to be able to do all of the movements, especially the basic movements, really good before we can start to do the more technical movements. Sometimes you might see this with people trying to learn how to do muscle ups, bar, ring. You see some chicken winging happening, right? You see people get really frustrated because they don't have things like strict pull-ups first or kipping pull-ups. They want to be able to jump to that next step before they know how to do the basics really good, all right? Sometimes it's hard to kind of take a step back and move a little slower, so that way we focus on the movements properly, so that way when we get to those higher technical movements, we can do those better and more efficiently. And so it kind of helps us to build the strength, build the skill, build the endurance into those movements before we go into just trying to get newer, more technical type of movements. Now, when you have a person who can move really well, typically they are people who aren't as injured as often, right? So if you can move with good form, you can squat to depth, with a flat back, you can hinge properly, you can press properly, you can do inverted type of movements really well and sound and proficient. Those people are typically going to be less injured because as they fatigue, as they do more repetitions, their body is going to know how to do those movements better. So now that way, when they get into those higher skilled type of movements for longer durations under fatigue, their body understands how to move better, hence giving them a better chance for injury prevention. So the reason why speed comes after movement is because if you look at CrossFit the sport, right, we have 90% of the events that are thrown out there depend on speed. So rounds for time, a chipper for time, AMRAP, as many rounds as possible, as many reps as possible, right? That score or that event is judged on how fast we're doing something. Now, the reason it comes after movement is because we have to be able to move well or to standard before we can move faster, right? Sometimes if we try to just do things fast, we shortcut the reps and we shortcut the range of motion. So speed has to come after movement. That third thing on that list was strength. Now, talking about strength, if you look at a competition setting, there's only going to be one rep max in a field of 4, 5, 6 events, right? Or a very small amount of events that are like that. So about 10% of the events that you see really depend on strength. Also, if you look at the strongest athletes in the field, they're usually not the top athlete, right? Those athletes are strong, and they're strong enough, but they also have the ability to move fast and move well. So that way when they're under fatigue, they can now have speed and they can now have strength. All right, so you don't have to be the strongest person, and you don't have to always focus on strength, but you have to always be working on it because it takes time, it takes years to be able to develop the type of strength that we need. Right now, like I said, it doesn't have to be the strongest, but we have to be able to always be working on it to always be improving, especially more within the off season of the sport, right? So after the Open for most of us, after regionals for a small part of us, and then after the games for a very, very small part of us. So thinking about the seasons of sport, kind of this last topic I want to talk about, that is where speed will kick up and movement will kick up even more. As the season progresses, right, we have to, and we get closer to the Open, we have to have more speed. We have to be able to move really, really well. So that way when it calls upon us to have a really high work capacity, we don't get no reps. We can also move really fast and efficiently, and now we can hopefully move that strength that we've just developed over a broad spectrum of time. So, are you putting the cart before the horse? Movement, speed, and then think about strength.